Hi, this is Sarah with Tenderfoot Village, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable little Christmas elves. There will be a couple of variations on this tutorial. One is going to be for the hair, and I will be walking you through how to do the two different ways of the hair. The one variation that I will not be showing is going to be the tutu skirt, and you can see that tutorial walkthrough in the witch tutorial. So look for the little gnome witch tutorial. Okay, let's get started. To begin, I'm going to cut out the pattern pieces for the shirt, and I'm going to be doing both the boy and the girl at the same time, but you'll only see me do the pieces for the boy until I need to switch over to the girl. The steps will be the same for both of them unless I show otherwise. Now I'm going to take my 3-inch section of pipe insulation and I'm going to hot glue my hex nut inside. And you notice that my pipe insulation is not cut evenly, and this won't matter in the end. No one will know or see it. Next I'm going to grab my knife and my styrofoam ball. Unless you have a pre-cut styrofoam ball, you can skip this step. And I'm going to cut it in half and then roll it so that it will fit on top of my pipe insulation evenly. And then I'm going to add hot glue and apply it to the top of the pipe insulation. Now I'm going to take my shirt material that I cut, fold it in half long ways, and begin cutting along the bottom triangles to create kind of a zigzag elfie shirt shape. At this point, I'm going to trace a circle to kind of cover the bottom of my gnome's body. I'm not going to hot glue this circle on just yet. I just want to have it ready for when I am ready to hot glue it on. Now I'm ready to take that shirt piece that I cut out and hot glue on one end and then wrap the body and hot glue it on the other end to finish it off. At this point I'm going to cut my excess off and clean up the edges a little bit. Now it's time to work on prepping the arms and legs and the dowel rods. So right now I'm measuring. I'm going to take the fatter, shorter hair roller, and I'm marking 2.5 inches on both sides. So I marked it, turned it over the other way, and marked it again. This is the 7-inch skinniest hair roller, and I'm marking 3.5 inches. This is the 6-inch dowel rods, and I'm marking 4.5 inches on both of those. Once everything's marked, I'm going to start by cutting the dowel rod first. And I'm just going to take my little jewelry pliers, wire cutters, and I'm just squeezing and kind of wiggling until it comes loose. It's not difficult at all. So I'm going to do that for both of the dowel rods. Now I want to cut the places I marked. I'm not cutting all the way through the wire. I'm just cutting that foam hair roller right now and piercing it and then cutting off that middle extra piece on the shorter one. Once I've done that, now I can cut the wire out of the little shorter one that I'm going to use for the legs, and then I want to carefully cut the one I'm going to use for the arms right in the middle. And I'm going to push up and grab a hold of that wire and then gently, easily bend over the tip only of that wire. Now I'm ready to put the dowel rod inside of the medium hair roller I'm using for the legs. And you have to be careful on this part. If you try to push too hard, you will tear your foam roller, so you have to be a little careful. Next I'm using the pattern piece for the legs, and I've just marked enough material to have two, cutting those down, and then I am going to roll that material around my hair roller, starting by gluing at one end and rolling it towards the middle. I like to do both my legs at the same time. That way I can make sure that the end seam ends up facing inward. And here, because I'm using a thin fabric material, I'm going to go ahead and kind of create a clean seam and fold that in, and then glue it to the leg. Now I'm going to take my dowel rods and poke them up inside, and I want to do this as close to that hex nut. I want to use it as a guide and stay real close to that, and that will allow enough space for my legs to be even and stand up, but not too far to where they are lopsided or he's uneven and can't stand up straight. And at this point I just kind of want to make sure that they're going to be even. I don't want to push one up further than the other. Once that's done, I'm ready to take my little circle that I cut out, and I'm going to apply hot glue to the bottom of that pipe insulation. But the thing to remember here is you don't want to cover the holes that you just made. You want to keep those clean of hot glue. Once that hot glue is dry, you can take your X-Acto knife and mark a little X where those holes are, and then you can reinsert those dowels and just recheck your placement. Now I'm going to take the pattern piece for the arms and I'm going to cut out 2 even pieces. Once I've done that, then I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue on one end for both of them, and then I'm going to fold those up to create kind of a sleeve, if you will. Once I've got those folded up, I'm going to take my 2 skinny pieces of that foam roller that we used, and I'm going to apply a little bit of glue. And you notice again I'm doing them on opposite ends just to kind of help me keep up with the direction that my sleeves are going to go. I like that seam to go into the body, not on the outside of the body. So now I'm just applying a little bit more hot glue, and I'm going to roll them over onto the felt and just kind of finish it off. Once they're glued, I'm going to trim off any excess that I don't want on there, just kind of clean them up a little bit. Now I'm ready to attach the arms to the rest of the body. So I just line up my arms. I'm trimming off a little bit of excess. There was just too much on there. So I'm going to line them up on the body where I like and try to make sure they're even. And then once I do that, I'm going to apply some hot glue, and I'm going to hold on to them for a second and let them set. Now I'm going to trace and cut my pattern out for my shoes. Now I'm ready to add hot glue to my shoes and then drop my little hex nuts inside of them. Next I'm going to add a strip of hot glue to the back of the shoe, lay it against one end of my material, and then begin adding more hot glue around the edge and rolling that material around. I'm going to continue doing this all the way around to the other end of the shoe, and then I'm going to glue the seam at the very back. And for this shoe, I'm going to show you another way you can use the pattern. So I'm just starting with the toe, and I'm going to work my way around both sides instead of starting at the back. So it's just another alternate way you can wrap the shoe. So now I'm finished with both of them, but I noticed a little white spot from the glue, so I'm just going to take my heat gun and I'm going to use it not too close, but just apply the heat onto that spot, and you can see it starts to disappear pretty quickly and it will go completely away. Next, I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue into the tip of the toe and squeeze it together gently. I'm going to do that for both shoes. I will honestly say I got a little bit ahead of myself on this part, and so I would recommend to you go ahead and wrap the trim around the bottom of your shoes before you glue your shoes into the body. You can still do it once you get the shoes glued in or the legs glued in, but it's a little bit more difficult than if you do it before they're glued on. So I'm also just applying a little bit of hot glue to the top of that material so that it lays down along the dowel to go up inside of there and kind of finish off those legs. Now that I have the legs glued in, I'm going to take this little pin and I'm just going to stick it in between his legs to kind of hold the position. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to cut my beard material, and I'm just using a box cutter, which I highly recommend. Works so much better than an X-Acto knife for the fur. Once I've cut my beard piece out using the pattern, I'm going to brush it out. And I will point out that this is just the Hobby Lobby faux fur. You don't have to have expensive faux fur. Now I'm going to take the material in my hand and I'm going to fold it in half. Then I'm going to pinch it about halfway and fold that front part out. And I'm just checking the position while pinching. While still holding it, once I'm happy with the way that it looked, I'm going to apply a dot of glue inside the pinch and then on the outside parts where I'm not holding on. And you can see it right there. Then I'm going to apply it to the head or the top of the body and smooth down the rest of that beard. Now I'm ready to add the nose, so I'm just kind of checking for position and the size and shape of the nose that I like. And once I've done that, I'm going to kind of smooth out the area I want the nose to go, just kind of smoothing all around. And I'm going to apply a dot of glue, push my nose on and kind of roll it up. And if there's any glue that comes out from under or over, I'm just smoothing the hair up to it and onto it. Now I'm going to cut out the small pointy hat, so I'm just tracing it out real quick. And I'm going to begin cutting it out. And I'm just using clothespins because they're convenient and easy for me. You can use whatever you like. Now I'm going to open up my pieces, and the part that I know is going to end up on the outside, I'm measuring really quick a piece of ribbon, and I've folded it in half so that it will fit onto both lengths of the pattern. And right now I'm just zigzagging out the shape that I want for the little ribbon piece. And I'm ready to begin cutting out those pieces. So I'm just going to cut along my lines, and I'm again using a clothespin just to kind of help hold things for me. Once I have my zigzags cut, I'm gonna cut the ribbon piece in half so that it will fit on both pieces. And once I've done that, I'm ready to hot glue. So you'll see me apply a strip of hot glue at the very edge. And then I want the glitter side facing up if you're using the glitter ribbon. If not, you can just do it how you like. So I'm doing this for both pieces, and then I'm going to face them together. So I want those ribbon pieces to face each other. Now I'm going to start applying hot glue down both sides, and then I'm going to let it set for a second. I'm not going to try and flip my hat right side out immediately, or that's when you create that white glue look. If you'll wait a little bit, it will allow the glue to really set and remain clear. Once I've let it set for a minute, I'm ready to turn it right side out, and I'm going to take a little skewer and kind of help me, but once I get to a certain point, I just kind of stretch it out. And I'm checking so that to see that it fits, and it does. I did notice a little spot where I needed a little extra glue, so I'm going to use a clothespin and kind of let that set again. Now I'm going to go to the girl, and I'm going to apply the nose a little different. So this time I want the nose to sit right at the edge of the styrofoam ball and the felt material. Once I get that placed, I'm ready to add my hair. For this part, I'm using a braided yarn material, which I'll show you here in a second. There it is. And I found this at Hobby Lobby. It is $19.99 for the whole thing, but you can use a coupon on it. Now I'm going to show you another way to do the girl's hair. So I'm taking this faux fur, and you can either use the Hobby Lobby faux fur that you can find on the felt aisle, or you can use the thicker faux fur. This is the thicker faux fur. So I'm just using my little pattern piece to help me cut out these two pieces. Once I get them cut and cleaned up a little bit, I am going to apply a little bit of hot glue. Oh, sorry. I'm going to brush them out first, just to kind of remove any excess faux fur and clean them up a little bit. Once I've done that, I'm going to flip over the material to the back side, and I'm going to apply a strip of hot glue down one end only. When I've done that, I'm going to fold it upwards so that those two long ends meet, and I'm mashing it together. And then once I've done that, I'm going to brush it out. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other piece of faux fur. Now I'm ready to apply them to my girl, and I'm just checking the placement. I want to make sure that they're kind of even on both sides of the gnome, so I'm adding a bunch of hot glue to the top of the nose, and I'm just evenly mashing them up against the top of the nose. And I want to, after I get them where I like, I want to add some more hot glue to the back to just get it to lay down a little bit more flat. So that's what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to cut out the longer hat, so I'm just laying out a piece of fleece material for this. And once I get it cut out, I am going to grab another piece of ribbon, and I'm measuring the length of that hat, and I'm just going to allow for a little bit of overhang, apply a strip of hot glue at the very, very edge again, and once I have that hot glue down, I'm just going to pick that ribbon up and lay it over. I did want to make sure that I overhung the ribbon just a little bit so you can see it kind of hanging off the edge. This will create a finished look in the end. Now I'm applying hot glue down the side at the very edge, and I'm going to let it set. I'm not going to turn it over right away, but once it's been allowed to set, then you can flip it inside out. So now I'm just going to begin placing the little beads for the hands. So I'm just applying a little blob of hot glue and tucking those inside of those sleeves, and then bending the arms. Now I'm cleaning up any hot glue mishaps, and I'm going to turn that other hat right side out. I'm ready to go ahead and apply the hands to the girl, so that's what I'm doing now. Now we can work on the ribbon skirt. So I'm measuring about 16 inches of ribbon. This is 3.5 inch wide ribbon, and it's wire ribbon. So I'm grabbing the wire on both ends, and I'm scooting that material towards the middle while pulling that wire out. And I'm working both sides. Once I get that pretty well moved to the middle, I'm going to tie it, kind of like you're tying a shoe a little bit. And then I'm going to twist. So I'm going to twist about 3 or 4 times. And once I get it twisted, I'm going to grab my pliers, but you actually could use your scissors. They will cut this easily. I just always default to my pliers. So I'm going to snip it off with just about a centimeter or so excess, and then I'm going to bend that in with those pliers. And once I've done that, I'm going to apply a dot of hot glue and finish off that skirt. So, well, I guess I applied a strip of hot glue, not a dot, and just kind of finish off that skirt, let it set. And because I was messing with it, I made it white, so I'm just going to use my heat gun and make that white go away. Now I'm going to finish working on the shoes. So I'm going to take this trim ribbon and I'm going to apply it around the bottom edge, working my way slowly around the bottom edge of the shoe. I'm going to do this for both shoes. So a little bit of hot glue, apply the ribbon, and then a little bit more hot glue and apply more ribbon. Now I'm going to apply the trim ribbon around the edge of the boy's arms. And I'm not going to the very, very edge. You can, but I chose not to. But I'm just going to apply a little bit of hot glue at the beginning and then at the end. And again, using my heat gun to clean up any glue mishaps. Now I'm going to use this thin bric-a-brac to line the edge, the top edge of the girl's elf boots. So you'll see me start it and then I'm using the hot glue to help me kind of run it around the top edge of the shoe. Now I'm going to use 3 of these little balls, so 2 tiny ones and 1 large one for each gnome. These are going to go on the tips of the toes of the shoes, and one of the bigger balls is going to go on the tip of the hat. Now I want to add a couple of bows to the braided girl's hair, so I'm just untwisting these little twist tie bows and I'm going to twist them in the back and then trim off the excess. You can apply hot glue, but I felt like it wasn't necessary, so I didn't. Now I'm going to add a little bric-a-brac trim to the edge of the little girl's arms, and because of the way that the bric-a-brac is, I'm going to add glue more often than I did with the red ribbon trim. I decided that this particular girl's head was a little bit too flat for the hat, so I wanted to add a little bit of polyfill. So I just applied a little bit of hot glue and a ball of polyfill on the top of her head, and that was perfect for filling the inside of the hat, just to kind of create more of a full head shape. Now I'm trimming off some of the center of the ball, and I applied a little bit of hot glue and glued it to the tip. Now I'm ready to finish off the boy elf, and I'm just cleaning up the little hat a little bit, seeing how I like it. And I'm applying his little balls to the tips of his toes. And I decided that I wanted this little guy to hold something, so I'm taking one of those little Christmas ornaments you can find at Walmart right now, and I'm just applying a little tiny bow where the original ribbon was, and I'm deciding which one I prefer. I like the one with the little sled, so I'm applying a little bit of hot glue, and I'm just going to put that little sled in place, let it set for a moment, and he's pretty much done. Alright, that's it for this tutorial, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.